Let me guess, you probably clicked on this video for one of two reasons. Number one, you're a manager and you want to see how can I deal with people better. Or number two, you're just a general dude who just wants to know, is there something I'm missing out? Is there a reason why people do not gravitate towards me? Believe it or not, there is no definite solution for any single problem. You have to find your own way. But let's get into why you might be struggling with trying to relate with different people, why you might be neglecting one of the most important parts of management, why you might see that people do not gravitate towards you. Just one reason. And what is that one reason? Well, stick around to find that out in this video. And probably, in my opinion, the worst thing that you can do is to dismiss somebody else's experience. So think about it. The reason why we come back to the point that people do not understand us is always because of what? It's because you feel that there is a disconnect, like you're on two different levels. Simply, I'm going to give it to you right now. This early on in the video, I'm going to give you the answer. The answer is that you do not treat those people according to the levels that they are at. And that is it. That's the simple answer. Now, that's not solely enough, isn't it? Because we know that. But you need to really go through the experience to understand exactly what it is that puts people at different levels and how different the levels are at which people operate. So whoever has left the video already, considering that they know the solution now, they're lost. But you're going to get the full experience of how to really deal with different people based on which levels they're at. Let's imagine that there's a line of 1,000 people outside one apartment building. Now, this complex is probably, let's say, 50 floors high. And all those 1,000 people have the goal of reaching a penthouse on the 48th floor. Now, you would think it's very easy. But the thing is, each person has their own limitations. In fact, it's taken by a random lot. We cannot tell what exactly each person gets. All they know is that before they start their ascent all the way to the top, they are going to get drawn from a random ballot what exactly their limitations are, what their abilities are to get there. So let's say person 1 is told he can use the stairs and he can walk all the way up there. So now that is 47 floors of walking all the way up on stairs. Might seem very difficult for some people, and some people could just quit right there and leave. But now a determined few would still challenge themselves to walk all the way up. At the same time, one thing that wasn't mentioned when they said you can take the flight of stairs is that the flight of stairs is so thin that you can only put one foot on it at a time. So now, do you see how when the ballots were given, it wasn't mentioned that these stairs were thin enough only for 1 foot at a time. Now that would make the ascent much more difficult, but that is something you find out on your journey there. Now that was the story of one person. Let's take another person, person 2. This person was given boots, safety wires, and an expert guide on how to navigate the stairs with maximum efficiency. And he was told, if you can do this, you can reach in 1/3 of the time that the other fellow reaches at the top. Now that's help, right? But this person, the egotistic person he is, decides, nah, I know better. So he says, I'm not going to use any of this because I trust in my own ability. I don't care, even though I've been given all this help. I'm going to go on my own journey anyways. And the truth is that he has such weak cardio that after the second floor, he just gives up. Why? Because if he had those boots, if he had the special equipment and the training, maybe he could have ascended all the way. But the thing is, he gave up. Now let's take person number 3. Person number 3 got special advantages. And those advantages were that number 1, he got an elevator trip all the way to the top. And number 2, he got a special call to the person who owns the penthouse. So even once they reach the penthouse, entry is simple because the way is almost paved for him. It's literally there. And this is all just random luck. It's not like he worked towards it, he just got it. So just by seeing the stories of these 3 people, you see how different these scenarios are. But guess what? don't you think that there is a chance? I'm not saying this is likely, but there is still a chance that person one, with all the difficulties that he's facing, does still reach the penthouse and in fact enters the penthouse. But now some people could even be left, could be guided all the way to the penthouse, and still they won't bother doing anything, because even when you're at the penthouse, you need to know to ring the doorbell, ask them politely, and then enter. But maybe they don't do that because they're too egotistical and they don't want to enter. So the basic idea of this entire story was that each person has their own advantages, disadvantages. Sometimes it's through luck, sometimes it's just the lottery of life. And the truth is that you need to understand different people have their own advantages and disadvantages, and without that, imagine the first person being treated the same way as the second or third person, being told the same advice. Do you think the same piece of advice could relate to all three? Well, maybe not. Because maybe for the third person who is right at the doorstep, because everything else has been done for them, if they're at the doorstep, you're probably going to advise them on how you can ring the doorbell, how you're going to greet the person, and that is the first thing that you want to address. But for the first person, that is not their concern at the moment, because they are not at that level yet. First of all, they need to clear the stairs, and they need to have special guidance on how to clear the stairs. So addressing the stairs problem is more important than addressing the doorbell problem. And so the biggest problem that most people make, especially when dealing with other people, is that they fail to understand each person thinks in a different way, that they don't think the same way that I do. So let's say I'm managing a person. I can't tell everybody a certain thing the exact same way. Why? Because people do not take things to heart the same way. Because I could be aggressive with somebody. I could tell somebody to their face exactly the truth, the honest truth, and they might like it. In fact, they might actually take it to heart, and they might say, okay, I need to change things and I'm going to change everything. But there could be another person who doesn't like hearing it that way, and they're going to think, who are you to say anything to me? And then they're probably not even going to listen to start with. So it's probably a lost cause to try to change that person that way. Instead, what you want to do is just take a different approach. Maybe you want to take a slight, mild approach to him. You want to address the same problem, but you want to introduce it in a more calm way. You want to introduce it in such a way that he understands. You're not accusing him of anything. You're trying to make him understand to think of a solution for the problem himself, instead of telling him the solution, or rather telling him that you are messing up here, you're messing up there. But the same approach won't work for the other person. So if you're going to use opposite approaches, that's when things are not going to work out well. You want to see which kind of person prefers which kind of method or which kind of approach to management. Because the truth is, each person had their own struggles to get here. And these struggles are the ones which shape how a certain person reacts to certain things, to certain triggers. So let's say that they tell you, I feel that I'm not at that level. I don't understand this certain thing. The worst thing that you can do as a manager is to say, doesn't make sense, because how can you have that problem in the first place? Now, somebody else's understanding level might be much higher than mine. And so they might be able to say, why are you even worried about this problem? It's so obvious. But we don't know why it is that that person does not know this particular skill. Maybe because they weren't taught that thing. Maybe because they weren't taught that well. And these things can make concepts very hard to understand. We do not understand that because maybe we were taught well, maybe we had a better understanding initially. But you know, when you have those certain small gaps in your knowledge and you don't know exactly how do I fix it, when you get lost, sometimes it's worse than not knowing the thing at all. Because when you are in that zone, you know that there are certain things I know. I know this part, I know that part, but the majority of it, I have no clue. Where do I start? And that is when you need to take a different approach. So you want to see exactly where is this person lacking exactly. And that is one thing many people ignore, because people think that everybody is on my level, so I don't need to bow down to another person's level because they should already know what I know. And that is one of the worst mistakes you can make as a manager. So if you do that already, then I would ask you to look at people a different way. Think of where exactly are they at. what are the struggles that they face to get to this point. And if you can understand that, maybe, just maybe, you might see certain people are lacking in certain places, maybe because they weren't taught that at all. All you want to do is, regardless of what level they are, maybe they might be above you, maybe they might be below you, you go to their level to make them understand at the level that they are at. Because the problem is that most people are unwilling to move from the level that they are at. So the best bet that you have is to move to their level, to speak at their level, at their understanding, because that is where most disconnect happens. And if you want to be a successful manager, if you want to know how to deal with people better, you go to their level. So if that was insightful for you, you might want to check out the video on the right about how to build on your conversation skills to maybe improve that and take that to the next degree. So smash subscribe, slap a like on, and always remember, never stop dreaming. See you all.